Welcome back to The Explainer. We are jumping right in today. I want you to picture this. It's 50,000 BC. The sun just dipped below the horizon. There's no streaming TV, no smartphones, and definitely no existential dread about your inbox. Right? There's just you, the flames of a campfire, and this thick, choking smoke curling directly into your face. For hundreds of thousands of years, every single human and pre-human ancestor who sat near a fire inhaled smoke every single day. It was totally unavoidable. It was constant. I mean, this was basically humanity's original air quality situation.
But somewhere, at some specific point in time, one of our early ancestors caught a whiff of that campfire smoke and had a thought that honestly permanently altered human history. They looked at that burning brush and thought, wait, what if I did that on purpose? And that is the exact question we're exploring today, how humans actually discovered smoking. We're not talking about modern cigarettes here. We're looking at the very first time a human being intentionally inhaled something burning, and why this pursuit of smoke is literally one of the oldest, most hardwired habits our species has ever had. Let's get right into Section 1, the prehistoric campfire accident, and how fire created the first smokers. See, smoking doesn't start with modern agriculture, and it certainly doesn't start with colonial trade routes. It is deeply, deeply rooted in our mastery of fire. The oldest confirmed evidence of controlled fire use by our ancestors goes back roughly 1 million years. 1 million, let that sink in. This was discovered at a site called Wonderwork Cave in South Africa, which proves that Homo erectus, our early ancestor, controlled fire and breathed smoke 1 million years ago. They sat around these fires to cook, stay warm, and huddle together. But depending on what kind of organic matter they threw into those flames, some of that smoke wasn't just your ordinary, everyday wood smoke. Which brings us to Section 2, a hard-wired human drive, and the biology of prehistoric intoxication. The biological reality making this all possible is absolutely fascinating. When you burn certain plants that naturally grow in forested environments across Africa, Europe, and Asia, they release a whole cocktail of compounds. We're talking psychoactive chemicals, alkaloids, terpenes, all going right into our ancestors' faces. Early humans were accidentally getting high around the campfire. And the human brain contains something called an endocannabinoid system that was perfectly primed for this. This is a natural biological network that regulates everything in us, from mood to memory to appetite. So the truly crucial point here is that these receptors didn't evolve because of cannabis. They were already there. When a prehistoric human took that first accidental hit of smoke, their brain wasn't confused at all. The brain essentially said, "Oh, hello, I've been waiting for you." That first inhalation wasn't an anomaly. It was biologically welcomed. And this biological readiness perfectly sets up a theory proposed by psychopharmacologist Ronald Siegel back in the 1980s. It's known as the intoxication hypothesis. Basically, this is a biological theory suggesting that the pursuit of altered states is actually a fourth primary drive in animals, right alongside hunger, thirst, and sex. This drive to alter our consciousness isn't just some modern human habit. It's a deep, animalistic imperative. You can actually see this across different species. Elephants, for example, will deliberately seek out fermented fruit. And up in Siberia, reindeer have been observed eating psychoactive mushrooms. Then, get this, other reindeer will literally drink their urine because the psychoactive compounds pass through completely intact. Reindeer doing drug recycling in Siberia. Honestly, you kind of have to respect the dedication. But it just proves that this drive spans the animal kingdom, suggesting our early ancestors were naturally predisposed to seek out these altered states. However, for prehistoric humans experimenting with wild plants, this was an incredibly high-stakes game of trial and error. Learning which smoke felt good versus which smoke was literally fatal, well, that's a distinction that kills you once. You figured it out, or you died. It was undocumented, lived experience, passed mouth to ear, around a fire in the dark, ultimately laying the groundwork for generations to come. Let's look at Section 3, digging up the evidence, the archaeological detective story. When we're tracking this unwritten history, we have to address a pretty major hurdle. The absence of evidence is not the evidence of absence. This is a classic archaeological survivor bias. We find stone tools from 3 million years ago because stone is basically indestructible. But organic materials? Think about a wooden pipe, dried herbs, or a leather pouch. Those things dissolve right back into the earth within a few centuries. But despite all that dissolving evidence, just look at this jaw-dropping timeline researchers have managed to uncover. We start with controlled fire 1 million years ago.
Then, jump to 12,000 years ago, and researchers found wild tobacco seeds deliberately concentrated in a hearth in the Great Salt Lake Desert in Utah. By 3,500 years ago, we find chemical tobacco residue inside ancient pipes in the Americas. And by 500 BC, we have direct evidence of high THC cannabis placed on superheated stones in ritual burials up in the Pamir Mountains of Central Asia.
The written historical record actually backs up this archaeology too. Moving into Section 4, medicine and social bonding, the original infrastructure of smoking.
See, ancient smoking was incredibly structured. It served vital medicinal and social purposes. It really wasn't just a casual everyday habit. It's remarkable how universally smoke was used as medicine across global civilizations. In ancient Egypt, around 1550 BC, the Ebers Papyrus prescribed inhaling heated herb smoke for throat and lung conditions. Over in ancient Greece, Hippocrates used therapeutic fumigation. And in ancient India, 3,000 years ago, Ayurvedic medicine practiced dhumapana, or smoke drinking, using pipes for specific medicinal herbs. To them, inhaling herbal smoke logically delivered medicine directly to the lungs. And honestly, that's a delivery mechanism we still rely on today with modern inhalers and nebulizers. But beyond physical medicine, smoking provided critical social infrastructure. When early humans shared psychoactive smoke, they experienced shared altered states. Modern neuroscience actually confirms that these shared rituals synchronize neural activity and build deep group trust. So this wasn't just recreational. This cohesiveness allowed early humans to survive incredibly dangerous environments together. The smoke circle was survival infrastructure.
Which leads us to our final part, Section 5, the industrial corruption, transitioning from sacred rituals to mass market extraction. Let's focus on tobacco for a second, a plant native only to the Americas. When Christopher Columbus arrived in 1492, he recorded seeing indigenous people with small glowing sticks, inhaling the smoke from burning dried leaves. His European crew was completely baffled. In ancient America, tobacco wasn't recreational at all. It was fundamentally sacred. Blowing smoke was a blessing. It was a highly disciplined channel to the spirit world, used in healing and for binding agreements. But look at how rapidly Europe dismantled that sacred context. Step 1. By the 1600s, global trade turns it into an absolute obsession. Step 2. In the 1700s, inhaling powdered snuff becomes fashionable across the European aristocracy. Step 3. By the 1800s, cigars are everywhere. And Step 4. By the 1900s, the industrial cigarette is invented. European industrialists basically took a measured, thousands-of-year-old indigenous practice and violently accelerated it into a cheap, convenient, and mass-market global addiction. And this creates a massive moral chasm between these two worlds. On one hand, you have an ancient shaman seeking the divine, treating the plant with immense discipline and reverence. On the other, a 1960s tobacco executive suppressing cancer data, adding chemicals to maximize addiction, and engineering a product strictly for physical destruction and financial extraction. They both worked with smoke, sure, but almost nothing else is the same.
So what does this all mean? The crucial point is that despite this modern industrial corruption, the human drive to alter consciousness through smoke represents an unbroken thread spanning hundreds of thousands of years of history. Fire, smoke, breath. The specific plants changed over time, the purposes definitely changed, but that behavioral drive is as old as the cognitive leap that made us human in the first place.
Which leaves us with a final thought to take away from this explainer. You are deeply, biologically tied to the ancestors who sat in the dark around those prehistoric flames. Next time you sit around a summer fire or catch a whiff of wood smoke on a cold night, what ancient instinct are you breathing in?